I might have started it already.
Recording is on.
All right, welcome guys to another wallet review. In today's review, we'll be taking an in-depth look at the Breez wallet. In the last call, we did some review of the Breez wallet from the first user experience and how Breez may look to the users who install it for the first time. And today we prepared a document where we want to take a look at specific flows and specific features of Breez wallet. We also want to talk a little bit how Breez is unique in certain regards, what things Breez does good, and also look at the features from the aspect from their target audience. So we had some stuff already prepared before the meeting, so we'll just start sharing what we already have. And some people have been posting also on Google Doc and in Figma, so maybe I can take a look at those while you guys present. So shall we start? Is there any volunteers who would like to start sharing first on what they discovered new with Breez?
I can go ahead, but should we try to put a bit of structure into this? So let's say I say something about the podcast feature, and anybody else has things to say about the podcast feature. We just all, we just cover feature by feature in a way.
Sure. That makes also sense if you guys prefer that. I just YOLO as always, so let's go. Let's start with the podcasting. It's the most unique feature, I believe. So feel free to kickstart, Christoph.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. So I actually thought it was great. If you can see my Figma here in the background. So I thought it was well executed. I think they put a lot of thought into it. The first thing was it was a little bit hard to find. So that would be my main criticism here. So I put some suggestions here that either in the onboarding or, well, actually on the website itself probably, and on the onboarding it should say you can listen and support your favorite podcasts here, and maybe make it look cool, show some of those podcasts, so I can already get an idea of what I see, and then give me a simple option to go there. Or if they also want to show other features on the home screen, like even when it's empty or when I've made my first transaction, they could have just some way to hide it, to simplify the discovery of this feature. Once I'm in it, I landed on an empty screen. But that was pretty clear. I need to go to the Discover view and then browse. So I just found some Bitcoin podcast, listened to one. I think the help here about the unique features, that was pretty good. So I could either boost, I can send a one-time boost, or I can stream sats per minute. So that explanation was good. I think the contrast here could be a little bit more obvious. I think the text is a bit small. The contrast is a bit low with the gray and dark blue on the lighter blue with transparency in the background. And then the thing that I was a bit confused by is I started listening to a podcast, but I couldn't really tell if I was paying something right now. It's here in the bottom right, I set that feature to 10 sats per minute, but I wasn't sure. There was no active state for me, so I was missing that a bit. And then so I kind of let the time tick down, and then this confetti appeared, and then I realized, okay, I probably paid 10 sats right now, but the confetti was gone really quickly. So I waited another minute to make sure, and then I realized, okay, cool, this. But then I actually went back to the home screen, and I somehow had paid 17 sats. So I think the active states here could be a little bit clearer because you're streaming money here, and also the very first time it should tell you like you just paid 10 sats or so, because I think there's obviously a concern where if it feels like the app is sending money to someone else without clearly telling you, then that's a problem. You don't want that feeling. So I think I would just refine the messaging and the clarity around this a bit more. But overall, I think it's a pretty awesome feature, the podcast thing. What did everybody else think about that? Did anybody else try this feature?
I focus more on the managing funds part and payment.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't really played around with the podcast side of things, but all your suggestions seem pretty clear. Don't really disagree with
Okay,
any
cool.
of them.
Then we can.
Hey, can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, I was trying to talk a second ago, and I don't think anybody heard what I was saying. Yeah, I was saying I had the exact same problem with the gotcha button. I couldn't find. It took me a while to figure out how to get out of that onboarding, workflow. But I was able to successfully pay the podcast I was listening to, so that worked.
Awesome. Yeah, and then go ahead.
No, continue. I have like something that will connect with what we've been talking to. So just continue, and I will chime in a moment.
Okay. These things here I already talked in the previous review. So I think this is something that Roy from Breez said that they wanted to get feedbacks on. So I did an analysis of the send and receive, especially because when I already looked at that with Phoenix, where they had very simple send and receive options. But in Breez, you have, when you press send, you get 3 options: paste invoice or ID, connect to pay, send to BTC address. And if you press receive, then you have receive via invoice, receive via BTC address, and buy Bitcoin. And then in between of them, you also have a scan button. So, and everything that you click, it feels like everything's different. It behaves, it looks differently. So sometimes I get this overlay where it says payee information, and it just says invoice or ID. So I wasn't sure what ID is, like my passport ID, probably not. But connect to pay is a bit different. This year, this little share thing that's actually the primary action button, which wasn't clear to me. And then for send to BTC address, they had a more traditional button at the bottom of the screen. So I was, I think there are a couple things you can do here. One is just make overall the experience more consistent, like always use a full screen, always have the button in the same spot. Not have one text-based button and an icon button in different places. And the other thing that could be done is, if it's possible, figure out what the primary way to send and receive is, and kind of avoid this menu at the bottom. So let's say I click send or I click receive, I get maybe a full screen that looks like this. And I think Phoenix does something like that, where it sends you to like a basic Lightning send screen, and then you can switch to a Bitcoin address. So it's kind of more opinionated about what the primary way to send or receive should be. And then it gives you options to use these other payment methods if you want to. And I feel like that could cut down on some of the complexity here.
I think that they see the primary way of sending is scanning the QR code, which is why they have the QR code button in the center at the bottom. But so if you know that's how you plan to spend, then it's like right there in the center. But also just someone who's new to Bitcoin and Lightning, they may not immediately associate the big QR code button with being sending. They may just gravitate towards the send button, as you were talking about.
Yeah, it's also for both sending and receiving, by the way, because you can fetch, I believe, LN URL withdraw with it as well. So I think their reasoning is that it's for both, and you as a user just scan whatever you wish. So maybe in a way they're like completely, distinguishing this flow from the traditional send and receive to basically unifying everything under scan. So that's at least how I saw it. I'm not sure if it was obvious for you guys as well.
Yeah, scan becomes the catch-all.
Yeah, for the LN URL one, I think that one at the state is a bit more gimmicky or like on the fringe of use cases. So I wouldn't say whilst it's possible to scan QR for withdrawing, it's like how many services do offer that now. So yeah, I don't necessarily see it as an action that someone's gonna take in like a social setting, for instance. If they're like trying to log in on their other device, which is like a desktop maybe. Or actually, maybe that can actually the LN URL withdrawal could be used for a point of sale refund at a bar or restaurant. So I guess in that sense, it's with the interaction with the merchant, then that comes in. But is someone, I guess the question would be like how clear that would be for someone to do who's kind of new to Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it can be cleaned up a bit. For example, I have a send screen here. So when I click on paste invoice or ID, I get basically an input field with whatever I want to use to send it. And when I do send to BTC address, I also have an input field. I feel like, similar to the QR code, which just lets me to scan anything, maybe I have an input field and I can just paste a BTC address, Lightning node, Lightning address, just whatever, and then it shows me the appropriate options. It just feels like there's a bit of an option overload that could be streamlined a bit here. That was really my main thing. I'm sure there's a ton of detail in all of those decisions.
Yeah,
and that's it for my feedback today.
Yeah, my feedback actually connects to your, Christoph. I'm not sure if you have the screen where the Breez wallet is empty and you initiate it for the first time. We do have it in that Breez Figma file. Breez Figma file. So, yeah. So up there you see that they have like option for send, which was a little bit unclear to me because you cannot send if you don't own anything. And maybe if their goal is you can either receive or listen to podcasts, or because those two actions are the only one that don't require funding. So I was just thinking that Steven's suggestion about onboarding a person for the first time. How do we handle that? Like, do we consider that they want to listen podcasts? Do we consider that they want to receive fund and spend it? And is there any way we can maybe minimize certain actions which don't make sense until a person actually has funds? So I was just thinking about that. Yeah, that's basically the screen that you have on the side. Yeah, exactly. Like listen to podcast, explore the apps or whatnot. And then maybe just, when you have funds, then does it make sense that we ask them to do a backup or whatever we want? That was the interesting flow that Steven, maybe Steven has some insights on that as well. I'm not sure.
What, just about onboarding them to receive Bitcoin first, you mean? Or
yeah, like onboarding them when they don't have Bitcoin, because Breez also has option for you to buy Bitcoin through a certain provider, and then directing users towards listening to podcasts or whatever else is possible without you having any Bitcoin there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just kind of depends. When I made that onboarding flow for Phoenix, I mean, I was definitely thinking of that, and I was really just kind of focused on Phoenix's situation, and it seemed to me like their app was basically just, it does two things: it sends Bitcoin and it receives Bitcoin. Not literally two things, but those are the two primary things you do with it. So I was just trying to think, well, you basically can only do one of those things to start with, and it's, you can only receive. So, let's hold the user's hand through that process. With Breez, you can do a lot more with it. You could download it and listen to podcasts if you wanted to without sending and receiving Bitcoin. But, at the same time, I'm like, why is someone going to go use this app to listen to podcasts if they're not wanting to participate in the Lightning economy? Like, are they, I mean, you could, but you also probably already have, if you like podcasts, you probably already have a podcast app on your phone with all of your favorite people saved in it and all of that kind of stuff. So, I don't know. I'm rambling out loud here. There are other things you could do with Breez, but I feel like it's also important that the user gets Bitcoin into the wallet as soon as possible.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, that makes sense. I assume people who don't, people who listen podcasts will probably use a dedicated podcast app anyway. So maybe they should be aimed at, getting you on board at first. By the way, just wanted to welcome all of you. It seems that we have quite a group here. Welcome Patricia, Polo, Jakub, Gigi, Buma, and yeah, I think those are all the newcomers. We are discussing things we found on the Breez wallet. So if any of you guys has feedback, just feel free to, just raise your hand and yeah, you can share your screen or whatever you wish to share the feedback.
Hello, guys. Nice to meet you.
Hey, Jakub. Yeah, Jones, you wanna start?
Sorry, that was an accident. But
okay.
yeah, I could share some of my findings in a second. So I was looking mostly at the those home screen actions and sending and receiving. Give me a second. Let's see. How do I get this? Tell me if you can see my screen.
Yeah. By the way, if anybody cannot see the screen, just refresh Jitsi sometime. It is laggy.
I'll post a link as well. I can follow along in Figma. Yeah, so this one is about this on the transaction list. It's possible to like filter your transactions by date range. I guess this is something that's could be quite useful for merchants who tend to maybe have like a lot more transactions per day than a regular user. But the application uses a lot of these modals, and in this one in particular, it's not very clear how to exit that modal. Now, what you do is to like click on the overlay, the dark part there, and then it exits it, or you can press apply filter. So some improvements here. I was thinking, I didn't get time to like mock it up and stuff, but some improvements could be that you offer the user a set of presets instead. Like filter by today, this week, this month, last 3 months, etc., and then allow them to input a custom date range. But I really like this kind of functionality. The other one, let's put this in. The other one was regarding this transaction list again. There are other kinds of activities that you can do with Breez. For instance, LN URL off. And I don't really see any of those authentications that I've done with it in this application, in this transaction list. So I think, I think it could be cool to show which sites I have authenticated with, and then allow me to and add it to the filter so I can filter like authentications, send or receive. I'm not sure about the other kinds of activities that Breez might also support, like open channels and whatnot. I think those could be cool things to add into this transaction list here. So it's not just financial, especially as the application tends to be promoted as a kind of like a window into the Lightning economy. This is another one. So on the transaction detail, oops, I messed this up. On the transaction detail, that's when you tap one of the items in the list. There's these drop downs here, and I thought, what is the reason for you to like what is the main action you would want to do for each of these like bits of data. Now inside it's a bit of I call bit vomit, like strings that you can't really understand, you can't really read. They don't make any sense to humans, and not memorable. Instead of having to make that extra tap, perhaps those icons could be shown there, and the view more can be instead the extra tap that you would have to do, like if you want to actually see the string itself. But yeah, instead of having these drop downs, we can just go straight to the copy or share. This is another one here. When making a payment, it seems that, and this is kind of like a different behavior from the other modal, because I wasn't able to exit this. And yeah, I don't know if I'm running like a older phone or something, but if it's because I'm on an older phone. But yeah, this seems to be like a blocking action where the modal comes up and it you're not able to dismiss this this message. Now, Lightning instant payments very frequently. You can do it, and then you have this like synchronous kind of event that's happening here. Yeah, I would expect to see something like the transaction being added to the list as processing with a processing status or something, instead of seeing this modal. So then I could perform like follow-up actions. The only other comment I had there was on yeah, this one, the scan, which is the icon here is just really thin and small. Perhaps some text label could be useful there, or just bolder icons. Oh, and yeah, receive via invoice. It seemed that one was like, it just felt like a bit technical. Receive via invoice. I don't know if a mainstream user would understand what an invoice is, and how that is a different way from receiving a Lightning payment or whatever, a Bitcoin payment, right? So maybe I'll just see, oh, I know BTC address. Okay, maybe I just choose this option instead. I'll be interested to know how, yeah, like what the current user base kind of thinks about that. So changes for potential changes to the copy, create invoice, or new payment request. I prefer the latter. But yeah, that's it.
Awesome, Jones. Thanks for sharing that. Does anybody have any feedback regarding John's comments? Anybody wants to chime in or anything?
Yeah,
I can. Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead. Sorry.
Just on that last bit, when you bring the menu up, like kind of what Christoph was talking about earlier, it's a bit of a overload of options, particularly with like you got 7 options in that kind of bottom part of the home screen. But just that part that John was talking about then about receiving Bitcoin, I probably would be better and a bit cleaner to kind of use the method that Phoenix used, or I think anyways, where you kind of go to a screen and it just shows an invoice straight away, and the Bitcoin address is like a secondary thing. And I know from talking with Roy in the past, like one of the Breez developers, Breez is looked at as like a Lightning first wallet, so not so much on-chain stuff. So I think that should definitely be secondary, and I think it would just make the flow a little bit easier. So I think Phoenix.
Also,
I
just
have a
changing
question.
invoice.
Oh, go
Sorry,
ahead.
just one sentence. Just maybe adding like Lightning invoice instead of invoice would be like, some people may not be maybe familiar that it's a kind of Lightning network wallet, but have not, and they may know that there's some kind of difference between normal Bitcoin address. So if just adding maybe Lightning there would be helpful. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with that.
My question was just, what am I supposed to do with the payment pre-image as a user? What's the point?
Nothing.
No, I mean, there must be a reason why it's there, right? Node ID, I understand. Okay, I can make more payments with it. I can look it up or whatever it is. But what is the reason to have the payment? Even if I'm, let's say, a developer or a more technical person, I want to do something with it. Why? What do I do with it?
It's basically your receipt that you're the one who sent the payment. So it's like the only kind of proof that you have that you are actually the one that made that payment. Only the sender would have that. The sender and receiver would have that pre-image, so they'll be able to check if you make an order. You could like, and they didn't take any, like personal info from you, and you need a refund. You could paste that in, and they'll be able to cryptographically proof it.
Is there anywhere you can even go paste pre-images and kind of see the two payment parties? Like, can you do that with Lightning Explorers?
BGC Pay, does it have anything like that incorporated, Pavlox?
Yeah, I think this part of the last presentation was the most like the most needed improvements, the transaction details. Like basically all of these three elements, which I don't remember the third one, I think it can all be under one like advanced info or something like, just under one, kind of hidden thing, which 95% of users won't use. But the one tech savvy and the one which really need that lightning obscure info, which even people on this call don't know what is it about. Like we are supposed to be, if we don't know about it, then I think all of the casual users also won't know about it. So it can be under some kind of advanced tab or something in that details screen.
Yeah, I would agree with Jakob's assessment that it should be under an advanced tab. Christoph, I think of the pre-image in a sense to put it on to the more traditional business world. I think of the pre-image as being kind of like the invoice ID. If you send an invoice to a client or as a business sends you an invoice, it's going to have some kind of unique identifier on there. Invoice number 2021-079, something to that effect. And so the pre-image effectively serves as that. Before the invoice is sent, it would be the payment hash. After the invoice is sent, then the pre-image can serve in place of that. So I think it's good that the pre-image is accessible if you need to kind of uniquely identify the payment in some way in the same manner that you would with an invoice. But I certainly don't think that it's the first thing that a user needs to see. I think it's tucked away, make it accessible, but hide it under advanced.
Yeah, it might just also need a non-technical label like proof of payment or payment ID or payment reception ID. I don't know, something that's more obvious.
Payment proof or something.
Yeah, payment ID, something like that.
I personally wouldn't say to like hide it anywhere. There's not much going on in that screen in particular. That you're not getting from the the transaction detail itself, the amount, the time. So those three options, payment pre-image, node ID, and transaction hash, are really the only other things that's not showing on the actual card. Sorry, the list item. And yeah, my suggestion there would just be not have you to open them instead of having to put it in an advanced tab, because there's just so little data being presented on that page already, on a modal already.
Yeah, and the actions that are missing for me are to or categorize this somehow. There's a green alien. It says unknown. I'm still looking at Figma's at John's Figma file, and I want to be able to say what this was for or who this was sent to. Just some way for me to make sense of this in transactions, so I know what it's for in the future, and then I can also if I give it a name, then I will see in my transaction list that how many other payments I made with this person or company.
I wanted to bring up that same point, exactly, Christoph. The same thing. I think they're as a feature, I would love it if there was a way to kind of edit users. I want to go ahead and give the Breez team some credit though for that feature with the icons. I really like the idea that instead of you're looking at the list of payments, instead of it just showing like say the node ID or something like that, it takes the time to assign it an icon. And so every time the same node ID appears in that list, it instead assigns it, the same icon, like maybe it's the alien every single time. So I like that the idea that instead of showing the node ID, that they're going to show you something more visual. But it would be really good, yeah, if there was a way to, if I know who this alien icon is, I know it's my friend, I want to be able to like find that friend's name.
Some identicon.
Well, if nobody, if we're finished with John's topic, I can share some of the stuff I was observing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Share my screen here. I'll just open up this Figma window. Can everybody see my Figma window okay? Cool. So I will tidy this up and add some more screens before kind of phoning this in. But yeah, I had the same thought as Christoph, just I had trouble finding this button there. Another kind of thing when I was digging around through the menus, I found myself by going into settings network, I found myself here at the screen where I could change the Bitcoin node. And my kind of question about this was, if I change this value or modify it in some way, am I going to break my connection to the Lightning Network? Or like, is my Breez wallet going to be no longer able to download block filters? I haven't tried it, but I have a hunch that I'm going to break something if I change the value in there. So just as a general thing, it might be good to warn the user, like, whoa, this was an advanced section, are you sure you want to proceed? Something like that. I experimented with the point of sale feature, and I really liked this feature a lot. And I found it pretty intuitive to use. I really had no suggestions for improvement. I just wanted to highlight that I thought it was a good feature, and just to kind of show that like every little like miniature application within Breez, I think, is going to have its own like special thing that you need to do. So in this one, you could type in an amount that, and just if anyone's not clear about point of sale, I mean, like, this is the kind of thing, if you're, running a food truck or a snack stand or something, or charging people tickets to enter a concert, you could whip out your Breez phone and like, instead of using like the Square app or something, you would use like Breez app or something like that. Instead of taking their credit card, you would, take a Lightning payment, and, you type in the amount that you want to charge them, and then, let the customer scan the invoice, and then you get this, little fun animation when it receives. And one thing I thought that was kind of interesting is once the payment's received, it gives you a printer button, and then it brings up the screen to where you can essentially print like a receipt for the person, which I thought was interesting because like that printer button doesn't appear in any of the other flows that I observed. So it's like, this is an example of how this is very clearly catered to a point of sale interface. And I think I had some more. Yeah, I took some screenshots. There's even some really nice ways that you can go in and like you can like assign, add products and stuff like that, so that you can pull up those products later on the fly, and charge them for them. So I thought that was really cool. One kind of thing I observed just in digging around through some of the menus is there's this transaction screen. And I thought that was kind of interesting just because it was like, I noticed that like the transaction screen looks drastically different from the one on the home screen. I don't know if that's a bad thing so much. I was curious to understand what the rationale was. Like, I think the one on the home screen looks better. It gives you a little more information. And I was just curious why it is that one list of payments look different than the other. So that's most of what I have.
I think the second transaction screen, that's the one that's specific to point of sale, right? You can only access it when you're in point of sale.
Yes. Yes, I
Oh,
also. Yeah,
sorry.
it's hidden. Like when you're not in point of sale, you don't see it in side menu. You have to go to points of sale, then you can see it in side menu, which is very confusing, I think, especially that it's called transactions, not just like POS transactions. And it also shows transactions which were not made through point of sale. So it shows all the transactions, which, yeah, in my notes, I'm talking about this. So when I will present, we can also talk about this.
That's interesting. I see what you're saying now. So like if I click on that menu on the side, it's like the things that are in that menu change based on like which app you're using. That wasn't immediately clear to me. Okay, thank you. I'll check and see. I took some more screenshots. I think that was pretty much the only feedback. I kind of discussed a lot of other stuff on the last call, so I think that's about it. Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I'd mention is just like I felt like this one right here. Again, this is some of the same stuff I brought up with Phoenix. Is just like if you do need to send to a BTC address, there's not a lot of explanation or guidance about why it needs to be at least 50,000 sats. I don't know if that's a bad thing. I can at least read it, but it might be helpful to have like a help button, provide them some context on why they can't send this money to a Bitcoin address. But that's all I got. So I'll turn it over to someone else.
Just one little nit.
Oh, go ahead.
Just on the receipt for the point of sale, it'd be good if you could share that. I feel like that would be a more common way to share a receipt with someone than printing it out and giving it to them. You still have the option to print, but it'd be good to have like a share button and you could like, I don't know, send it via email or text or however you want to send it.
Sorry,
just super quick. Can you zoom into that scan to pay where it says 250?
Yeah, they use I don't know what, but they have a sat symbol that they use.
It's the only place in the app I think that I've seen this. Just a small detail.
Yeah.
Don't have to talk about it.
Yeah, it's only in POS, I think, which also is a bit confusing that there are two ways of showing sats. But yeah.
And I agree with, I think that was Bosch that said the idea of like a share button. That'd be really cool. There could be a share button right here, and then you could just text the receipt to the customer or whatever, way you use the share button for. So that's all I got. I'll turn it over to someone else.
I have one quick comment regarding the transactions. Actually, you can export them and maybe pass them on to your accountant, which is a great feature. I don't think I ever saw that in a wallet that allows you to export the transactions. I'm not sure about the ones in the point of sale app, but on the main transaction view, you can actually export them. The only problem with them is that they are denominated in sats. So if I was to send this to my accountant, he would probably commit a suicide and not understand anything, because it really, like, they need to add like a rate or current rate or the rate of the payment and denominate it in the amount on which actually the invoice was created. So if I create it on $10 in the export, it should like have $10. It needs to have like current rate and stuff like that for my accountant to understand things. So I think this is something that we can suggest to them as well, because like just exporting invoices with satoshis, this is not how it works with merchants. They need like it denominated in fiat with rates and stuff like that. So I think there is an improvement there, but just wanted to highlight that unique feature.
Yeah, I loved that feature. I tried it out as well, and it was very easily able to move a CSV file onto my Mac. It was great.
Yeah, I actually last weekend, I used it on a conference when we onboarded 300 people to Lightning, and we used Breez POS. So, I mean, I was only helping, and I wasn't the guy who was taking transactions, but he was actually I was like showing him Breez. he never tried Lightning, anything Bitcoin related. So I kind of trained him, and it went quite well. So it worked pretty well. Although we find out some UX issues, which I guess I can actually start talking about. Anyone else want to?
Yeah, go ahead.
No. Okay, let me share a screen. Do you see it?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, POS UX issues. So one minor thing is that we use tablets, and the QR codes on tablet mode are like adjusted to the size of the screen. So they're actually huge. That makes it's very hard to scan the the invoice, right? There's a video here. I'm not sure if you can see. You can see how the girl has to hold it very high to scan. So this is one minor thing. The other stuff is, yeah, having two different screens for transactions, and one accessing transactions which is related to POS. Yeah, I wrote that it feels like an Easter egg or kind of achievement because it looks like it's hidden, right? So you can only access it from point of sale, and since both of these screens shows all of the transactions, it also feels, and they have similar info, it feels kind of pointless. But when we wanted to use when we wanted to check, I don't know where it is in the screen here, but oh yeah, one thing is that it doesn't show items here, and also in the balance, classic balance, all of the items, from POS, it just shows unknown, and even in the transaction POS, it doesn't show item name. You have to click it, then you can see a list of items or one item, right? Which are there. But we actually didn't realize there's this transaction screen for like half a day. Then I think I wrote to Roy on Telegram. He said you can access it. We didn't. He also said that we can check that this transaction was this item, but I couldn't find how, right? And then I clicked on the transaction list, and then it was. But I think my proposition was to just show somewhere on the transaction list, if it's one item, just the label of that item, and if it's more items, we can show like, I don't know, 5 items, or maybe we can even list them. As I'm not sure if you see, like maybe we can even list those items. So that are the most stuff from POS which I see improvements. The other thing is that to clear that confusion, I think the POS transactions should be available from POS screen, just somewhere there. So it's, when you are a salesman, you can see it already. You can check it anytime without going outside of, of the to the side menu, right? Especially that in the side menu, every position is different app, and this kind of feels like a part of point of sale. So I think it should be inside. So this is from the point of sale discussions, but I have a bit more. So one thing is unclear and two technical error messages. There's actually this discussion on Twitter around this, which I link here. You can take a look later. But yeah, it's very technical. I mean, in some cases, you can find out, you can kind of understand what may happen, but in some cases you can't. So maybe we could consider adding like possible reasons of an error, because sometimes I guess there might be many sources of an error, and possible solutions to an error, right? Like try again. I had some issues with Breez for like a longer time. I couldn't send in transactions. I couldn't sync. I had some kind of an error. I don't remember. I haven't took a screenshot, but I needed to contact Roy and Breez to get help, and he said to check graph synchronization. So in that kind of errors, we can already inform users like what they can do to fix it themselves. Another thing is Lightning address. I don't know if Gigi is still here, but I didn't realize Breez allows for Lightning payments. Until I complained to, and not complained, until I asked on Twitter Breez to add it, and I received the message that it's already there. It's only invoice or ID here, right? So and also ID, like I wasn't exactly sure what it refers to. So my proposition is to change copy here to like invoice Lightning address or node ID, or LN address or node ID. Another thing, it's a minor thing, but I guess it's kind of important, is that it shows currency symbols in a way Americans and English UK uses that. So, for example, with euro, only England, only people from UK and Turkey, for some reason, use euro in front of the numbers. All of the rest of Europe use it after the number and after one space, like here. The same is for my national currency, which is Polish zloty. We always use that after the number. And it looks very, very, very weird when you look like this. This basically looks like an error, kind of very funny way. So adjusting this national currencies to the style of the users of that currencies would be pretty nice. And I think some of you talked about this, that the dollar equivalents would be nice to have. I mean, I understand this might be kind of ideological position to have, use only sats, which I like, but on the other hand, we still price things in dollars, especially when you use POS, when you use it on some kind of events, and that dollar equivalent or any other currency equivalent would be very helpful in many cases, which we could I would even take out the fee info and put the dollar equivalent here, and the fee info could be inside the transaction details, but that's up for the discussion. But this would require storing data of prices right on the date of transactions, which I don't know if this is like a technical problem, but this is one thing. Another thing is to whenever we create invoice or want to send to someone sats or Bitcoin, we can't change the unit inside the transaction screen. We have to go back to the main balance and change it here, right? So, but I recognize a situation when someone wants to follow the Bitcoin balance, and they just use, let's say, Bitcoin balance, but someone asks them to send like 1000 sats, right? So they need to always remember to change that balance to sats, so they can easily put sats in the transaction screen, because when they are in transaction mode, they cannot change it to sats. They have to calculate in their head, or just go back, change it, and come back again to put 1000. So that's basically it.
With that, with the last one you showed there, with the switching like currencies and stuff, I guess it would be really cool if when you tap the main balance card, like on the home screen, if you tap it and then it changes the currency that's displayed like all over the application, that might be a cool feature. I don't know, like, what do you guys think about that? Is it
if you change the unit on the main balance, it changes the unit in the transaction screen. But there are some cases when you don't want to change it globally, but you want to change it just in the case you are actually using it.
I see.
And this is not possible. You have to change it globally to use that other unit in the wallet transaction.
When creating a transaction, yeah, that makes sense.
Mr. Pavlineks, does anybody else have feedback? Because we're at 50 minutes in, or should we gather more feedback, more discussion, or try to turn this into something actionable that we want to forward to Breez? What do you think?
Yeah, if anybody has like something prepared, maybe we can do a quick overview, but otherwise let's try to focus on a few things that we want to pass along to them. I mean, we'll pass along everything, but we shouldn't overwhelm them and post like all things like what are the most critical ones. Let's try to, find a consensus on that one.
That might be difficult.
I mean, it also depends what the Breez team is actually working on and what their priorities are. If their current focus is just hardcore on making this podcasting thing a success, they will focus on that. If point of sale is their big thing, I think Roy mentioned that they have a whole bunch of design changes in flux. So it's really going to depend. But there's also stuff that's much easier to implement than other things. If small things about switching, changing currency is very easy to do. That's just a couple of events and a little bit of application logic, while reworking the whole navigation is, of course, way harder.
Yeah, I think Jacob had a good suggestion there. Also, small one that could be implemented with the Lightning address. That's a new feature that they added, and it's a label change or something, or maybe a little description at the bottom of that field.
Yeah, Pavlineks, I'm just going to clean up my Figma file with all my screens and apply some, better looking notes on it. And then I'm going to post it to Slack after this call. And, anybody can do whatever they want to with it.
So how about we all gather up all of the files that we have and we create a thread on Slack where we can share all of the links we did in this call, and then maybe we can all chat there to see what do we expedite, because I think we have 5 minutes left, but we covered quite a lot of things, so maybe we can just chat there and try to find up a consensus, unless Christoph has a different idea on how we can do this.
No, I mean, I think in the end, I think that's a good idea. Everybody shares whatever they had. We also have the recording of this video here. And then just 2 or 3 of us can kind of package this up and just send it over in the what we think is the most appropriate format. And it does make sense to organize it a little bit, categorize it a little bit. Okay, this is all about podcasts. This is all about navigation. Here are small copy and interaction tweaks that can maybe be worked off very quickly. So we give a little bit of structure to things. But how about you and I do that? And I know Steven or maybe somebody else. So we have a couple of people who can go through everything and manage that. I mean, Pavlineks, you're also already managing most of this.
You know me, I love dirty janitorial work, so like any janitor, I'm happy to take on this task. So yeah, guys, let's create a thread on Slack and then gather everything up and pass along the feedback. Thanks everybody for presenting. I just want to take last few minutes. Maybe we should discuss what wallet do we want to review next. I think Bosch, you had a suggestion. You were very keen on taking a look at a particular wallet, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I wanted to look at Blixt. I don't know if you guys have used that, but I'd say it's probably the most feature-rich next to Zeus, but it's kind of attempting to go more down the path of a simple Lightning wallet, more akin to Breez or Phoenix. But it's it's quite feature rich, and I think there's a lot of low hanging kind of design suggestions we could offer, and they seem pretty keen to have some assistance in that area. So I'm pretty sure they'll be open to our feedback.
Sounds good to me. Let's do it next week, right? We keep pushing this every single week. Tempo just quickly, and we move fast, providing feedback. There is lots of success with Phoenix already. I'm very happy with what we've gathered with Breez, and we will just keep it. For those who don't know, we have like a thread where we keep a track of all these issues on GitHub. I will post a link to that in that thread that I will make as soon as we are done with this call. And yeah, with that said, unless anybody has any questions or ideas, we can wrap this one up.
It's a pretty good list. I really like what everybody brought in. There's just a lot of different angles were covered here. So awesome work, everyone.
Nice to meet you and to attend my first Bitcoin design meeting.
Yeah. Cheers for the call.
Welcome.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you for joining in, and see you in the next design review call. Bye, guys.
See ya, bye.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Is anyone hanging around for a sec?